thought we were going to be moving ahead with new zoning, which we don't have. And so we really have a little bit less to discuss because there were far less tools in our tool chest to make a change, make any impact. But, open to suggestions. We can go through it day by day. I mean, I think we should meet in May because we're not going to meet then for 6 weeks. June is a month later. The July meeting, do you feel that's effective? I mean, or do we just skip July?
Do you think it's effective, Jim? No.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
we're there, but no one comes over to us.
Okay.
We tried it twice.
Okay.
We don't get a whole lot of interest or.
And I guess we should figure out what we're meeting for, not in that way, but you know what I mean. I mean, figure out what. We've been meeting monthly for the last however many years, so.
Right.
I mean, if there's got to be a goal that we're meeting for.
Well, no, exactly. So we had been meeting monthly, and we increased to monthly. It used to meet really infrequently, and then we increased to monthly when we were going to have a website. So we started meeting really frequently about the website, and then when Yale came in and was working the urban design workshop plan, urban design workshop plan, we were meeting very, monthly. We needed those meetings to work with Yale and to see that through. And then when we thought it was going to be adopted by suggestions we adopted by town planning and zoning into zoning, we met often. Currently, nothing's happening there. So we have very few tools in our tool chest, and what Betsy had thought about some ideas of things we could do, but given our past experiences, I really feel very strongly that unless we get a directive from the Board of Selectmen to do something where they've approved it, that we're spinning our wheels. So, for instance, we worked on the website, I think before all of you guys were here, and then when we were told to do so by the Board of Selectmen, and then it turned out that they went an entirely different direction, funded it differently, and all the work that we had done was for naught. We were selected by Ed Sheehy when he was then selectman to work with Yale Urban Design Workshop, and we did that quite diligently. Once Ed passed, things changed, and it didn't have the sort of the backing of the selectmen in the way that it did under Ed. So I'm a little I'm getting a little, I don't know, shy about this, that I think we really need to know that our current Board of Selectmen wants us to do something before we start doing it and then just get frustrated. Because...
And Mika
Makes
did,
sense.
Yeah.
Mika did text, say, be here around 7:30. So
Okay, so he can weigh in on that.
Yes.
So,
The same and stuff Jamie's been doing with the wayfinding. I mean, sort of just sitting there, you've got beautiful signs that have been designed, but we can't really move them
I think
forward because
hopefully Betsy will have a little bit of an update for us. I think the other thought, though, correct me if I'm wrong, is that because we had challenges with quorums, if we have less meetings, maybe we'll have more hope to get quorums at our meetings, because I know it's frustrating. I mean, I've been at every meeting, and when we don't have the quorums, it's also frustrating because then we can't even do anything. So
Right.
if we, can be more effective with our times. And my question is, and I don't know who has the answer, but if we went to a 6 or whatever, a reduced schedule, but if we needed a meeting, we can still call a special meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was my thought, is that if it's reduced schedule, but know that if something comes up, then you call a special meeting and we come together.
Right. I mean, I think it's important, ask what we can do. I think it's important that there be lay leadership involved as the town has taken back some of our role. With Betsy increasing her, having brought on board, well, she was on board before, but her role in economic development is increasing. So I think we can be a good sounding board for her on a regular basis, not too regular, to make sure she's on the right direction so she can get feedback from all of us who have different experiences. So I think that that's worthwhile. I can continue meeting with, and anybody else can join, with Betsy and Beth, just to make sure, to create the agenda and to, to sort of give feedback to the first selectman. But aside from that, to meet monthly and not really have anything of substance, it really, I don't think is a direction we ought to be going at this point. To the extent that, the town would then adopt some plan, either, change the zoning, or we had discussed, I'm a proponent of TIF, which is tax incremental financing, which is if a piece of property is developed, that there becomes a lockbox for a portion of the incremental increase in taxes. That was redundant. And that money can then be used for different things in the business district. But unless we get, go ahead from the Board of Selectmen that they want us to be doing that, we shouldn't, I don't want to spin our wheels and just sit here and discuss it and then have the Board of Selectmen say, well, no, we decided not.
And we also did invite the businesses regularly and to get the feedback and provide them a form as well. And I think we sort of put that on hold. I know Betsy's going out and doing the visits, so I don't know if that's in lieu of or if that's something we want to come back and revisit.
I think it's really effective. I think we should continue to invite businesses to whichever meetings we have, because we are broadcast and people do watch. It's a good way for them to communicate.
I thought that was a great forum for us to learn the issues as well as for them, to your point, to have that exposure.
Right.
I've asked a few when I've gone out, and a couple have said, oh, no thanks, or I've been invited in the past and I'm not interested. So I've broached the subject with a few folks.
I mean, I can give you updates on who new tenants are in Woodbridge. I mean, I've got a couple, if anyone wants to, take their names down or do whatever, but it's a matter of whether we want to continue to invite them. I mean, we just have a new tenant at 245 Amity Road. Upstairs, we have a web design company.
Oh, I'm sorry,
a web design company. They came from one of the downtown New Haven incubator spaces. The person who lives in Woodbridge is the owner of the company. And actually, our former Economic Development Commissioner, Yorona, is actually going to be taking space up there as well.
Excellent. And he's still actually on the commission.
Okay, so still on the commission. And you've got a new nail salon, and 214. I mean,
And those would be the folks that would be the prime candidates to come and speak to us and allow that forum. I thought it worked well. I know we sort of tabled it for a while, but I think it'd be great to.
I think it would be even better if, we had something where that camera that's videotaping them catches a snippet of them, and we could put out onto our website for the town to see. I mean, I myself have no idea how to watch this channel in my own house.
No, well, it's there.
It's easy. It's just right above CNN.
Yeah, I sent when
79.
79.
I was inviting people, I would actually put the link in there so they could see prior meetings, and it's right in the letter of this is sort of give them an expectation so they could click on it, they could watch the prior meetings, they could see those clips. So it was part of the promotion of the event.
No, it's nice. I mean, but if we are taping these, I mean, if there's a way for us to get a snippet to be able to put on the website, to highlight a business of the month or whatever we're doing.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
That's a way to promote business.
Is that possible?
In the town or.
We're on YouTube.
What?
You can get the link off.
And then someone who's tech savvy could just snip it, like a piece of it. Okay.
We can even
That's a
put
good
a
idea.
collection together, a montage of take 2-second clips of 12 of them just to show boom, boom, boom. These are our, last 12 businesses that were here.
I think it'd be worthwhile to be able to do that, a showcase of our local businesses.
Nice looking tip.
Maybe get a high school senior to do an intern, like a social media internship.
Nice looking tip.
And I mean, the email that Betsy sent out about, what they're doing at the other Economic Development Commission, I don't know that we're in any sort of an order in the agenda. I was trying to think about it, because I'm like, so we're thinking.
I actually was on the car all day, so I didn't
So
get a
the
chance to read
email
it.
was about, it was North Branford?
Yeah.
North Branford's doing a sunflower festival kind of thing, where they're sort of promoting North Branford as a big grower of sunflowers to bring other people from other towns into North Branford to come and buy flowers or whatever during a particular time. And I've been trying to think of what we as Woodbridge could do to, if we're taking a turn as to what our sort of a role is, and if we're gonna meet, however we're gonna meet, you know, what can we do to sort of promote like
So my thought
Woodbridge Trail Day
to follow
or
up on
like
that
a
is-
farm day, and like we promote like all the different like on that day every farm in town like has a stand, and we can go to like buy the flowers from the little, you know, house on Center Road, and we can go to the Urbano Berry Farm, and we can go to Massaro, and we can go to, I don't know if Cone Farm is still doing their farm, but we can go to these, every single farm could be open that day, and invite every town around here, and it would be a nice day to go bumping around to buy produce from different towns. Or
Well,
if
the
we had-
sunflower thing, what I think was interesting is that Rogers, the new economic development director in North Branford, I met with him. He's come in with lots of ideas, trying to put North Branford on the map. And North Branford, in a sense, is smaller than we are, but they do have a pretty good commercial base over there. And so they're giving out, 500,000 sunflower seeds to, the entire community. 500,000 sunflower seeds is gonna have some impact if everybody throws a couple in their yard.
Right,
And
it's
to be
beautiful.
a destination, and I thought, we can have Roger come and talk to us about his ideas and how he did that, and so we don't have to just invite businesses, but we can invite different economic development directors to come and share what they're doing in their communities. I mean, Wallingford's doing some awesome stuff, Dale from Hamden's doing a lot of creative stuff, and so that might help, to your point, Jeremy, about what are other towns doing. We can, invite them as a guest to come and
I
speak
mean,
to
what
us.
do we have here that are resources? I mean, in terms of what the town loves and beholds, we have the farmland, we have green space, we have trails. I mean, and we have a cute little business district that, we would like to grow, but, we'll take it as it is until we can grow it a little bit more. But if we could have a day where we could highlight where some of those trails are down off that business district, and I mean, if we worked with the land trust people and sort of had like people at every trail on a certain day, I mean, I don't know, we could do different ways to promote the town. I don't know that it's economic development per se, but it could be bringing people to our town, like could
Do
be
you think-
having lunch in town that day. And
Do you think the realtors would sponsor and help out with it? I mean,
we could
do it like with open houses also, like have one big Woodbridge open house day.
It's certainly an idea. I mean, we could certainly talk to. I don't think that the brokers in Woodbridge would have any issues with, like, if it was a Saturday or Sunday, trying to coordinate their clients with open houses. There's not really a set.
I'm just thinking in terms of
residential
feeding it, how to feed it out, how to
Right.
brand it, how to get it out. Well,
It's not a bad idea.
You know.
I think we could, and we have a few different brokerage houses in town. I mean, and they're very active. We could certainly reach out to them.
Going on the trail thing, you got both Hamden and Branford. I was at Branford's economic breakfast this morning, and they were putting a big emphasis, to your point, about the economic impact of a trail system and the importance of a well-defined trail system. Like the New Haven, the Farmington Canal Trail.
yeah, I mean-
Branford is building a trail of that magnitude, which is actually going to go
a
from
paved trail as well.
from Branford to Hammonasset. And so
Wow.
that's the next big trail program that they're putting in, essentially be able to go from Branford to Hammonasset. That's
Wow.
awesome. And it's gonna take time, just like this trail, but they see the economic impact and the value of that to their community. And I know Betsy's working on a program here with our trail system.
How are they getting a right of way to build that trail? Do you know?
I don't, they were just talking about this morning at the
Okay.
meeting, there the different sections that they have access to. They showed pictures of it and everything, and there's actually a whole website I Googled this morning on it. So I haven't done any more research on it, but I thought it was interesting. I mean, it's a legit thing that they're putting together.
I'm sure.
So I have been talking a lot about our trail system because, to your point, I think it is a real gem that the town has, and it's something that not enough of our residents know about and might enjoy if they knew more about it. And there are people who come from out of town to use the trails, and so how do we capture their attention once they're here? So I'm working with Scrog and Rex Development to create a map that includes our trails, farm stands, retail, and restaurants, so that once they're here, they know of the other things that are here in town. And I've also been talking with the Park Association, the Bike Store, Conservation Commission, and Recreation about some variation on a trails day or trail event, like a hike and a run and a bike ride, or maybe it's separate events, or trying to figure out what makes the most sense.
This is called Shoreline Greenway Trail from East Haven to Madison.
Oh. Is it state funded?
I'm guessing there's gotta be. There's a lot of funding sources, but with the trail system we have here, I know we've got that one. I mean, I still think it'd be awesome. We could essentially walk from here to the business district. I mean, there's trails there. I think there's one road we have to cross basically, but it's accessible. It's just not well defined. But, you know, those sort of things I think add value to
Yeah,
being
Maybe
safe.
maybe that during that day there could be like everyone meets here at town hall and we hike all the way down the business district and we all have lunch or where it leads out to, where we're social or one of those places down there. I mean, it'd be fun. I mean, people can get their kids involved and come from out of town at least. At least their town will understand what we have in terms of. You know,
Isn't there a trail cleanup day?
Not one scheduled, no.
Email. There's something.
Oh, Litter Day?
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's for cleaning up litter, like, on the roadsides.
not trail specifically.
It could be trails, but it's designed for roadsides.
Okay.
Gentleman down at the bike shop was putting together something that they were going to work on the trails, clean the trails. and things
Yeah,
of
they
that
did
nature.
something back in November. And I
It's-
think, I can't remember what, it was an impressive number of bags of trash that they pulled out of the trails
Really?
and invasives, and it was, there were maybe 10 or 15 people, and
No, I
they did a lot of work.
thought it was something this spring, because I filled out something on the website on it. That went to you. I was gonna bring my
The
stuff.
trail shirt?
Yeah, it was specific, yeah, because I remember thinking, oh, this is great activity for the Cub Scouts to participate in. Okay, maybe I made it up. Maybe it should be something we should do.
Yeah.
I think as in when Fall Palooza started, I think there are different organizations that are doing little pieces of these things. If we can pull them together.
Yeah, so the
And so-
community council is organizing Fallapalooza,
Right.
and shortly I think they'll be doing a call out to the community for what type of events could be included in.
Maybe it falls under that umbrella in the fall, or it,
I've been talking about trying to line it up for the fall. It's
right. It would be
It's a lot of
silly, I
work.
mean, we already have a brand. We already have the marketing effort going on. I mean, I think there are different community, there are the Boy Scouts or the Conservation Association. Like there are other, I think people are doing things sporadically. If we could somehow pull them together under one umbrella, as part of Fallapalooza or something else.
Yeah.
But I think I mean, we've already got that. We should
Right,
try
it's
to
a-
expand it. We should try
and
to use that
that's
brand.
what community council is doing. Is
Okay.
that's they're in charge of Fallapalooza now.
And so are they looking at a trail event?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, great. So we don't need to,
Right, like I said, so I'm working with,
Uh-huh.
under their direction, I'm working with conservation, with recreation, with the bike shop. I've spoken with the Parks Association because they already did a trail
Right,
run
right, I
last
remember, yeah.
October.
Uh.
So maybe that's a format that we could build off of.
right, and maybe if we can bring the realtors in on that day for open houses under the Fallapalooza.
Fall's a funny time for houses on the market, but we can try.
Well, they need more pushing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Community council is a new council?
I don't know, what is community?
It's an ad hoc organization appointed by Beth, and the goal behind it is, because we don't have these physical spaces like the New Haven Green or the Brantford Green where people just happen to be and have these nice casual encounters and happenstance conversations, we're trying to find ways to bring people together. So their charge is to create an event every quarter to bring people together. So they did, in the winter, they did book reading and discussion about Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, Between the World and Me, and later in the week they screened, it was I Am Not Your Negro at the library and held a discussion afterwards. They did Fallapalooza. This spring they're doing Red Litter Day in April to encourage people to pick up roadside litter and stop by the green to get a trash bag and a map of the town for where to go pick up trash. But while they come in, they'll be encouraged to bring old papers that can be shredded. There'll be a paper shredding truck on site. There will be an EV charging demonstration, and people can learn about electric vehicles. And the prescription drop-off box at the police station is just next door, so we'll also be encouraging people to bring in old or unnecessary prescriptions to get them out of the house and try to prevent some of the prescription drug problems. So that's what they're doing in April. And then in July, in August, they're talking about something called National Night Out, and that's, there's a lot of different formats that it could take, but it's an idea for people to come together and meet their neighbors and also meet town officials. So just kind of creating community is the goal.
Now, is there any way that the Economic Development Commission can work with those folks to create a community of business people? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think that our goal is to try to create this thriving business community, and people of town getting together. Their kids are in school. They get together. They have play dates. They learn to become friends, and that's how they sort of become a community. But the business people are the people that don't really have any sort of an identity. I think a real strong, like the folks down on Research Drive that did that little food truck thing where people will come out and have lunch on Fridays, there is what the town should be focusing on if we want to try to build this business community.
So what sort of networking idea? I've got a happy hour on the calendar for May 14th. What other sort of networking opportunities do you think would be good for the EDC to coordinate?
The Brantford Economic Forum I went to this morning, I had emailed Betsy and Jody about that. They had about 125 people show up for this thing. It was 8 to 10. It was at Stony Creek. We have NEBCO. It was a state of the town from the first selectman, but they also had other speakers. They had Eversource in, and then they had Circ in. And so, following up what you mentioned, Rex, we can do that same sort of thing. They had the school cater it, the culinary department at the high school cater it. So it was a free event for the business community and those supporting the business community in Brantford. And it was just, I thought, a great event. So, no cost to the business community, but it was networking, exactly what we're talking about.
But to your point, they have a much larger commercial base than ours, so how do we make it as, I don't know.
We have 50 people at it,
Right, instead of 125.
I think we can easily do that. When we do these networking things, everybody loves them, and we
And
easily get 25, 30 people.
Is it the business showcasing what they do, or is it just the businesses getting together to?
This was the economic forum, so it was a message from the first selectman. It was, then the speaker was Eversource, and Eversource was talking, because Brantford on the shoreline was talking about wind power and the benefits of wind and where that's going to help the state. And then Circ was doing their update. So, we could bring Rex in and Ginny to do an update to the business community, because I don't think the business community understands, that there is an Economic Development Commission and there is a Rex helping the region, because we are supporting economic development in the whole region, and how that benefits everybody. So I think we could put together a nice little program, and economic development can sponsor it. And I don't know if I know the school has a culinary department, but I don't know if they have the
What about the,
capabilities to do that.
Is that place still open in the senior center?
No.
Yeah, I like the tie-in with the school and the culinary. I'm on the CT committee over at Amity. I'm meeting with them
What's
in 2
CT?
weeks. The Career Tech Ed department at Amity High School, and culinary is a big part of that. And so,
Jamie, this was a breakfast, you said?
this was a breakfast, yeah.
But it was at the brewery.
It was at the brewery, yeah, exactly.
Beer for
And
Way to start
breakfast.
the day.
And that's what everybody said. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but not at 8 o'clock in the morning, but.
But it lets everyone know it's there. It's
Well, it's great meeting space.
It's a phenomenal facility.
Beautiful, the second floor overlooks the harbor, but it's business, you were meeting in a business facility, whether here in town with JCC or NEBCO. NEBCO has great meeting space in the back, and it was low cost because, again, the school was putting it on, so they had to pay for the food, but you weren't paying, a high-end caterer to put this event on, and you were focusing on the students, so it was a great partnership.
And everything you said is very doable, so what's preventing it from happening? So
No, I thought it was a great idea. I walked away, said we should do this in Woodbridge. We should do this every year. We should do an economic forum, every spring or every fall, whatever we choose. But I just thought it was a great event.
This was Brantford, not North Brantford.
This was Brantford, yeah, two different things. Yeah, North Brantford's the sunflower thing, but and obviously, I was there from Woodbridge wearing multiple hats, but, we obviously invite some of the other neighboring community economic development folks, and, if you don't charge for it, but it's for businesses only, you don't have to be invited, we don't wanna open up the whole community, but, it's a low-cost event.
Yesterday morning, Levy Mill Moretz hosted a CID meeting, the Commercial Industrial Development Commission.
What hosted it?
My real estate brokerage,
Okay,
so a space that I have for lease in Woodbridge. And we actually had over 50 realtors, commercial realtors, from across the state, really, from Torrington out to
Wow.
Madison, all come into Research Drive. We do this monthly, so we had them down in our space, and we did a talk about the space and the town, talked about town a little bit, but it may be a nice idea to open it up to some of the owners in town. Maybe they want to host it not necessarily at a restaurant or something, but maybe at a vacant building or at a vacant office space or a vacant retail store, just to sort of highlight, a space that may be available in town. There's certainly places that will, cater it. But it was neat. I was sort of excited that we had these brokers from literally all over the state that came in just to come into Woodbridge, and didn't have any issue getting to town, which was nice. And it went really well. They were very impressed with where we were and everything else, so it was nice.
Well, maybe there's an opportunity, since you already sort of started that infrastructure, that EDC partners with that.
Could be. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely, figure out another time, maybe host a CID, and
I saw the sign yesterday morning too, I was wondering what it was.
that was me out there at 7 in the morning with that sign.
I spoke with Ken on the phone, I think it was this afternoon, and he was telling me about how great the event was.
Yeah, it was good.
And I had just read about the town of Suffield doing something, because he was saying, we really need to think about how we're marketing the town, so that when we are having these conversations with brokers from out of town, we can tell them why Woodbridge, what's so great about Woodbridge. And I had just read about the town of Suffield doing something, a tour of empty spaces with commercial realtors
Love to do that.
from other towns, so that they could see not just the one spot you were, but all of the spaces that are available, and then maybe take them to a few other places around town that are great, that would help them understand why they should come here. Maybe stop at Nedco, or
I think every
Something
commercial
like that.
property owner in town would welcome that tour to their spaces.
But do you think do you think there's an opportunity to combine what Jamie is describing with this? So we'd have, for selectmen speak, Beth Heller would speak, someone from EDC would speak, you can speak, that's it.
thank you.
Just to sort of, so they're not just looking for space, so they understand what the town is,
Yeah, I
what
think
the,
you all meet together, there's like a little presentation, and then you hop on like a sort of a car tour, and you go around from space to space, and I think it's certainly doable, and when they come to the original meeting, you give them details on where they're gonna go, and we can have some stats on the town, and you have a couple of presentations, and if they don't have enough time to drive around, at least they get the information on all the available spaces in town, and they got to hear from, town government about what we're doing, and things like that. I think it's a really good idea.
So which one of these seems more doable?
yes?
Yes?
Why, yeah, I like that idea if we did, and what I like about, I'm looking at, nobody else can see this, but the part of it's the logo, it's Discover Bramford. The marketing is right in the messaging, and, it's Discover Woodbridge, it's, there's ways, that we could do this creatively, but you do the forum for our business community, but you invite other businesses to join, you invite the other commercial realtors from the region to come in. And so they attend this as well, and then, do a 2-for-1.
And I
After
think
this,
they
give
invite
them
the
free
property
breakfast.
owners too. I mean,
Oh,
if you
yeah,
have property
absolutely.
owners and brokers and business owners, it's better than to enhance,
Right.
really feed the business community. At least everyone gets to meet everyone.
Right.
It's a nice.
Great networking opportunity.
So much time
everybody.
would be needed for that? How much time, lead time, to make it happen?
I think you just need the space and the, I think the catering thing, again, if the school could do it, I think it's a real nice fit. I think it probably kept the cost down, because what they did is they probably had a dozen students, they provided the coffee, they had a couple tables set up, so it was more than, just fruits and stuff. I mean, they actually had some really nice baked goods and stuff, but we weren't talking about a fancy, sit down or anything, but it was enough of a light buffet to, everybody had a little bit to eat there, so you're not looking for a big deal thing, it's just a matter of coordinating it.
Got an event scheduled in May. The happy hour? So is this a June, July? What's your
I think
thought, or do you
summer's-
do it in May? My thought with the school, Jamie, and I'd be happy to contact the school and see what the potentials are there. But I do know in May is a time when they give seniors that opportunity to go out and do things like this, and I'm sure there would be, there's gotta be a few seniors who may be willing to take a morning, which is all it is, and participate if it's something that
Well,
they
that
can
was
do.
what was really nice, is the student that was in charge of it got up and spoke too. So we had an
Right.
opportunity to talk to, 125 business people, talk about the program. So again, promoting the entire community at this event was really nice. And you can tell this kid was passionate about it. He was a senior in the program, he'd been cooking for 4 years, and it was, really proud to be able
Yeah.
to serve this food to the business community.
So what's the commission feel? Is this something you want to move forward with? And if so, what are the action items that need to happen in order to make it happen? Is this one item? It's a great idea. So
Couldn't it be done if the
what are we gonna
schools
do?
incorporated, and it could, I'm almost thinking, I'm wondering, and lean on our farmer that's here, wouldn't it be cool if the students were using all vegetables from Woodbridge? And again, incorporate all the farms
It'd have
into
to be in the
this.
fall then.
Yeah,
Exactly,
it's not May.
yeah, it would be a fall thing, but wouldn't that be cool where, the farming community comes together, they provide all the produce, the students prepare all the food, and maybe it's a luncheon instead of a breakfast. I don't know how much breakfast you can make out of cauliflower and broccoli, but.
If you want the brokers there, if the out-of-town brokers are key to it, I would think that breakfast is probably the
Okay.
best way to get them in. You gotta sort of get them in early so they can go on their day.
But now you're saying the brokers for the idea that you were talking about, similar to what you provided in terms of the space and the tour and the vacancies and things of that nature?
If we're combining to get the brokers and the business owners and the property owners together, I think that mornings are probably, I think mornings, to try to fit it in, I think the mornings are probably the best way to do it. I mean, I'm not the decision maker, but I'm certainly think that, as far as them trying to figure out their days.
Right, I mean, I think it's ambitious for May. I think that a lot of pieces have to come together before then, so.
Not from what you just said. In terms of that, I don't know if you could want to pass that around and just see what's there. It
No, I'm
doesn't-
I'm thinking if you start involving the school, I think that part's ambitious, but maybe I have less faith in bureaucracy than you do.
Yeah, maybe I'm too optimistic, but my feeling is that you contact the schools, and if you want to do a luncheon, which I think is a great idea, you don't do it, as you said, you don't do it necessarily in the morning, and you do the brokers as a separate item, and that's a discussion point. Why not determine what you want to do, how you want to do it, and determine what we need to do, and see who can get involved and make it happen if this is something that you feel is going to. There's benefit to it, as you said, in terms of getting the business owners together, and if nothing else, it really lets people know that economic development is here, and we're starting to do some things. And I'm looking at it, Jody, as something that could potentially happen more quickly and easily than for example.
So maybe this is
Because
something.
and I'm basing this on what you were saying, and I know Ginny from Rex, and she's always happy to help. And she's a great speaker, and she's got a lot to offer, in terms of what's there. So you have somebody who can, and then you can bring, I know Beth would be receptive, and Betsy, you can to this. So you've got your select, and you've got your main speaker, if you will. We have a pretty good relationship with Eversource as well. So if there's something that we can tie in from a
But
business
Eversource is
perspective-
not.
Well, they're not
ours.
They're not
Right.
ours.
You're right.
It doesn't mean that we couldn't, why isn't Eversource?
Because we're you or whatever, we're
Yeah.
Avigrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they could sponsor, that's right, because they were the sponsor of it as well.
Okay.
So you get either, they all have money to help, fund these
To
things.
do these things.
Right, so maybe they underwrite it and they pay for the cost of the breakfast, and we don't have to worry about it too. You could go to an outside source, so.
All I'm suggesting is that and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
want to offer too much, but just in the short time I've been here, you've mentioned a number of different things that are very, very good ideas. So now that you've got a couple, rather than building that to 5 or 6 or 7 that may become overwhelming, figure the ones you want to do out and let's do it. For example, the trail day, I can tell you just from a personal standpoint, I don't go on trails a lot. And my wife said, let's take a walk on the blue, the trail behind here, and I did it for the first time in 20 years. I've been here for 20 years. It's a beautiful trail system. And I gotta feel like there's a ton of people like me who just don't realize that it's there, or just haven't or realize it's there and just haven't taken advantage of it for whatever reasons. And the fact that it goes into the business district ties very well. So just what you were mentioning it's a great idea. So how do we make these now realities and start building some momentum with that, I guess is what.
So it sounds to me like the trail system, there are other people working on the trail events.
I'm coordinating a discussion about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if they take the front on it, then we can put the stamp of EDC and help along and try to figure out how to communicate with the businesses on it. So I don't know that we would need to take the lead on that, it sounds like. This, however, either the Realtor breakfast, or this sort of thing we actually do need to take the lead on. I think, to me, May is not enough time, but Betsy, you know what your time is like, so you need to weigh in because a lot of this is gonna fall on you.
But it's also things that you guys could do. So both of you had said you have relationships with the school and you could talk to them about catering. I know Ginny, you know Ginny. And so it'd really be, one of you could volunteer to figure out what space would work, and I could coordinate between, if Ginny's our desired speaker, I could coordinate with Ginny and Beth's schedule, and we could see when the space is available, if somebody wanted to reserve the space and somebody else wanted to figure out the food. And if
Go to the brewery.
So we're talking about May 14th, or we're talking about an additional?
Well, May 14th is a happy hour at Saloon, and I don't
Okay.
think they have the capacity in the
Okay,
bar for
fine.
something like
Okay,
this.
so this is an addition to May 14th.
Right.
So I guess the first thing would be like, okay, do you want to do it? If the answer is yes, when do you want to do it? And now how do we make it happen?
So I think it could happen, I think May is tight.
Right, I agree.
June is probably possible, July and August,
No,
Summer.
nothing.
yeah.
And June is very, very rough because of all the graduations and recitals and end of the year things going on. I just find, as a parent, that June just
Well, we could
becomes
really
overwhelming.
work on it and try to really develop like some really solid speakers and create like a lot of content and try to set it up for September or something like that and just put some time and effort into
Announce
it.
it at May, when it
What's that?
comes to the happy hour.
Sure,
Tell
right,
them
announce it.
Right,
we're
uh-huh,
gonna be
And
right.
try to line up
Right.
speakers from,
Right.
not Eversource, but from UI or whoever that,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how
Right. Right.
heavy, if it was Beth and Ginny to start, I think that would be enough. I mean, this was a 2-hour thing and it was long.
That's too
I
long.
think an
That's too
hour and a
long.
half, you get a half an hour networking, you have an hour of programming between two speakers, and then you finish it up by 9:30, and those who want to go on the realtor tour, go on the realtor tour. And they can keep the conversation going that way. So I don't think you really have to, we're not putting together a huge thing. I think those two for our first time around, and then it becomes an annual thing,
And if it's falling in, and if we end up in the fall, then it becomes part of Fallapalooza. Because we already have the marketing and branding out
Right,
there.
we could do it in
And we can
October.
push, and we know the
There you
so
go.
we know the communications can be pushed out easily about it.
It may be nice to have one other component like of the farming community or something like that to do a presentation at something like that, just to show what else the town does in terms of economic development.
I
if
think
we
it
have-
goes to the food too. I
Yeah, I
mean, if
agree.
we could really incorporate
I
the
think
food in it, I mean,
Sure.
what better thing to do for the farming community than actually serve the food?
And I think,
So-
I think they would jump all over it. I really do. I really think they would love to do
So,
something.
we have it, welcome, now it's time for you to jump in. Maybe perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your experience in town, and you own a farm? I'm not even aware of your background, so.
I do own a farm. It's the old family farm,
Okay.
which is down in what we call the flats. My wife and I bought it about 3.5 years ago. And currently, we have 2 greenhouses down there where we raise annuals. So we're raising potted plants and some annuals, some vegetables and things like that. We haven't done a lot in the farm per se, although we do have the best strawberries in the area down there.
That's good to know. Can people come and pick them, or you pick them?
No, we pick them.
Okay.
And we actually have almost a 1/4 acre of blueberries that are in down there,
Wow.
which we just started to pick last year. But
Where is there? So people who
So
are watching, can you?
you know where the old lender building is down
Yes,
out from
uh-huh,
69?
yep.
We're right in the backyard. I'm in the
How do you
backyard.
access that?
You access that from Lawrence Street.
Okay.
So you'd go by. if
Is
you
that
were
where
headed
that little
toward Bed-
sign is that says?
On Litchfield Turnpike, yes.
Yeah, there's a little
Yeah.
sign on Litchfield Turnpike.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which
Does
I
your
would-
farm have a name?
um,
No? Okay.
Family Farms, we call it. It's got a
Okay.
bunch of different names, but Family Farms, we
Okay.
call it. So it's, although I've been doing this all my life, on and off, we really, I'm still trying to nail down exactly what the farm should be doing. So we have fun with the blueberries and strawberries.
What is the picking season for the, or when do you anticipate selling the blueberries and the strawberries?
Well, the strawberries will start in June and I'll go most of the month of June, even if we're lucky into July. And then blueberries will pick up then and go for another month and a half.
I see, okay.
So, that's it. We've been increasing our plant production in the last 3 years. So we're having pretty good success raising annual plants, potted plants, hanging baskets. So, and I don't have a lot of time right now. We're trying to make it go, but I have too many irons in the fire right now to devote 100% of my time to it. So we're playing with it, but it's a ball. Getting inside a greenhouse and watching stuff grow is really a lot of fun. So
Okay.
So I don't know about broccoli and cauliflower in the fall. It's
Well, maybe we can ask Masara to.
Well, and the other farm, we
Yeah.
have Mazzara, we have the other
I think
CSA.
they're picking that up that noise with them.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Right, that's okay.
Sorry.
The other CSA on Litchfield Turnpike as well.
Right,
So
right.
that's at least two of them that are doing, a fair amount of vegetables. And, chicken, somebody said eggs. I mean,
And there's a
we've
new
got lot.
CSA on that piece of property next to the ball fields that they're starting.
Oh, off center?
Off center, yeah.
Where's that?
On Center Road. It's Center and
The old
Peace.
farmhouse on Center Road by the walking trails. Yeah, they just bought it and they now have a farm little stand right there.
Yeah, I go in there and get my eggs.
Do you?
$5.50, it's leave your money and get really fresh eggs.
Right, 50? They're good, aren't they? I have 22 chickens,
Wow.
so
Okay.
we have a constant supply of eggs.
And do you sell the eggs at your farm?
We
as well?
haven't yet.
There's a lot to work with. It's just a matter of sort of pinning it down, and I think at least it'll give us a goal. I mean, if we want to provide something, we're going to be able to reach out to enough people to make it really count. And I think like a September, and it's a beautiful
Yeah,
time in our
yeah,
town
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So I mean, it's a good time to bring people in. I think for
Right.
the morning. And
So I think two separate things. May 14th, maybe we can figure out something to expand the programming, perhaps bring in the school, if you guys are able to coordinate with the school for that, and see if Beth wants to speak, of course, and maybe if Jenny wants to come.
I wasn't suggesting this for
No?
May 14th.
No?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No,
Oh,
I was just
okay.
saying, I didn't think it would be something you needed 6 months for.
Okay.
But if it would be a great fall event.
Mm-hmm.
And fall would be great for the food and things of that nature, to tie in the farmers, and possibly, I think fall is a great time to be on a trail.
Mm-hmm.
So, you could certainly tie it all into that. So that would be a reason to have it at that point in time, so. But I think this is already an event that Betsy has got in place as far as May 14th.
Yeah, I mean, there's no structure to it. It's just a
Right.
happy hour,
Okay.
like
Just
get
we've done in
everybody
the
there.
past at Salute.
But Beth will
Yeah.
be there, and, okay, fine.
But at least if we had these two, you do your May happy hour, it's always on the calendar, every May we're doing happy hour, every fall we're doing an economic forum, at least we'd have two annual events that are tied into VDC, and then maybe we get a third in the calendar, but I think.
what's our best way to communicate for the May 14th event to get the word out to everyone that we want to be there?
So I've got a very slowly growing email list. I think I have almost 400
Wow.
business emails on there. And then the local newspapers.
And are you using the Facebook page at this point?
Occasionally,
Uh-huh.
yeah. But I don't know how many businesses are following the town.
But us individuals and, that Woodbridge Bethany page would be a nice way to just sort of
Yeah.
put it out there.
Yeah, if you put something, we can.
That's a very active page, one
Oh,
way or
yes.
the other.
Yeah.
Maybe not in terms of business or
Uh-huh.
economic
Uh-huh.
development, but it's active and people
Yes.
watch it, and there's all
Yeah,
kinds
people
of
are always watching.
recommendations for, handymen and gutter cleaners and all kinds of stuff, so it's a nice way maybe to say, local businesses, come on out for XYZ. I don't think the administrators will have any problem with it.
Yeah, so
Google Center.
in the past, I haven't been able to join because I'm not a resident, but I could post something on the
Okay.
town's face
We can
page
do it.
and one of you could share it.
Sure, we can put it on there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We create a Facebook event, and then we can put it on that page.
Oh, right,
We can start
right,
inviting
yeah,
Woodbridge
invite people, yeah.
That would be a good way to do it, I think.
Okay.
Gather some, generate some steam.
Okay, so, May 14th, trails, we'll figure out how EDC can get involved with that. And a fall event based upon the template that you created for the realtors, but including farms, maybe culinary, both of those under the Fallapalooza umbrella, so we can take advantage of the marketing push. So getting back to the original question, how many meetings should we have? Which is what you,
Well, that's
what you
where we are.
missed.
That's where we are.
That's right. Like, no, we sort of digressed because it was about, well, what are we trying to accomplish, and when do we need to meet to accomplish it?
Well, based on that, then you might want to keep that July 30th meeting, because like you said, you got 6 weeks in there. If there's going to be no August meeting, and we want something in October, we don't want to wait till September 12th
Right.
to be planning an October
So-
event.
So maybe we get rid of the December meeting because that's always really hard to get people to attend.
Maybe the July
And-
should be here and not.
Yeah. So we'll do the July 30th meeting here.
So that's a Tuesday.
What?
Is that July 30th? Is that okay?
Well, that's going to, when's the concerts?
Concerts are every Tuesday.
So we did it to align with the concert, but we
Right.
can change the
Do you
date.
want to do it on the Thursday instead? Oh, man.
That would put us on August 1st, probably.
Right.
Well, if you're doing,
August
what is it,
2nd.
the second Thursday of the month, then it'd be mid-July.
Yeah, I can't commit to being
Oh, I'm
around
not
in
here.
mid-July.
I'm not here August 2nd.
There lies the problem of being.
Right, yeah.
Or we can just have
Not
the,
that week
if nobody's going to attend the concert anyway, we can still have a meeting with the concerts outside.
Can we do
Because
the
it's
meeting on the
7
25th? July 25th?
That works better for me. I can't do that last week either.
I'd like to have it, I can be here if we want to do it.
I should be able to be here the 25th. I can't guarantee it. We can try. I mean, Jamie can run the meeting. I don't need to.
Yeah, the following
Your
week,
committee?
we
Okay,
have a
okay.
commitment, so. I'm more
So
secure on
25th?
25th, okay.
At 7.
Is this room's available that day?
I can find out, I have to check. But if this room's not available, there are other rooms.
Okay, so we're not going to have the April meeting. Do we want to have? We've only gotten rid of the April meeting, the December meeting. Do we want to meet the other days or eliminate anything else? So we're meeting so this year actually we'll be meeting 75%, or a little bit less.
8 of 12th.
8 or 12,
It's fine by me.
yeah. Okay, fine.
So no April, but May through May,
May, June, July, no August, and then no December. And you'll send out the
No
The
August and then December?
no August and no December.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, we weren't skipping. I'm sorry.
I thought you said-
No.
No
I'm
fall meetings.
no August, no May, no April, no August, and no December. And Betsy will circulate that to everybody here and so all the members will know.
So everyone has the correct
Correct
data.
dates.
And then I just need you all to approve those minutes, approve those dates, and then going forward, these will no longer be special meetings, they'll just be meetings.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the meeting dates that we discussed.
Right, so it'll be Thursday, May 9th, Thursday, June 6th, or we say Thursday, July 25th, Thursday, September 12th, Thursday, October 10th, Thursday, November 14th, and then we'll schedule the January meeting in case we have a quorum issue to Thursday, January 9th of 2020. Can I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, we have meeting dates going forward. I don't know if, moving on to the next item, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to review what Betsy had sent out on the CERC report. It was pretty interesting. If any, I think I just wanted to put it on the agenda because it was a special meeting, that we can discuss how we want to discuss it going forward. But it's too big a thing to discuss all at once right now. I thought it was quite interesting that the towns that we were compared to, and there were, what I always think is so interesting is we tend to be very hard on ourselves, but then if you look and you talk to other people, I mean, one time I was watching like Westport or Weston, it was a Weston public meeting for some reason was on one of the public channels, and they had similar issues that we have. Actually, their property values have gone down much more than ours. So we're not isolated. We're not, we are part of the region. We're part of the state because the way Connecticut's structured with these, 127, is it?
69 towns.
69 little fiefdoms. We tend to think we're islands of our own, but in fact we're not. And I think what to me is so interesting is that it shows we're just right in line with what's going on with the rest of the state. It's just that we don't have the commercial base that other towns have to help buffer some of the tax issues. But anyway, did anybody have a chance to review it? Did one discuss it? Should we table it? Does anybody have ideas how you want to discuss this in the future?
I'm just trying to find it. I thought I remember reviewing it. Did you email this out?
I emailed the link to it.
Okay,
It's a very
that's why I
large
can't
document.
find it, okay. That's why.
It's a pretty good depiction of just sort of what we all know that.
The CERC report you're referring to was a link in it, so it's,
The part that I didn't understand was the
not
phase two. It discussed different scenarios
It's not
in the future, right? So it had this thing about what happens if state has less educational, when the state has less educational funding, and then what'll happen if the districts merge. How were those scenarios? Yeah, it was just interesting. That list of 4 potential futures seemed very different.
So there just happened to be things that have been coming up in discussion, and especially now with regionalization of school
With other
districts.
CERC clients, with others.
No, just
Here in
in
Woodbridge.
general, both here in general and statewide. So school regionalization has been a hot topic for a while, so that was something that was kind of looked at. Obviously, growing the grand list would be very useful in Woodbridge, so, if the
Right.
commercial grand list grew, what would that do to the rest of the grand list, and what would the impact be on our residents? There's always a threat from the state that we'll be getting less money from them, and the majority of our money from the state goes to our schools. So what happens if X percentage of money from the state evaporates? So those are kind of all hypothetical scenarios, but things that
Right.
have come up in the past. What would happen if?
Right.
And all of them deserve a much deeper look. This was just a
Okay.
very superficial
Okay.
look at, plucking numbers out of the air. What if the school funding from the state was cut in half? I mean, that's very arbitrary.
Right. I tried to skip to the end to see some of those, and that was the ones that were all the different. Okay, so they were all addressed at the very end. Okay. Low rate impacts. I was about 2/3 of the way through when I looked
It's a
to
long
get here.
report.
It's a long read.
61 pages.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's a
is
long
it
read.
shared on the website, so if
Yes.
people who are watching want to
Yes.
look at it? You know, I thought what was really fascinating to me is because I always think of our having, you know, our share of the grand list is the residents really carry a huge burden of that as opposed to some other towns. But I was, you know, surprised to see there were other towns similarly situated to us with just huge percentage of the grand list being carried by the residents. And I was surprised, and maybe I'm not reading this right, but it looks like Westport's in the similar percentage to us, which I was surprised. Because I think of them having a much bigger commercially regulated.
Consider the values of the properties and what they're paying in taxes in Westport.
Okay, so it's a
as opposed to here. So
Proportional.
Maybe it's not-
$100,000 house here is worth, you know, $900,000 there, and they're paying their percentage of tax on that, so they.
But they're
Needless
needless to say, they're-
but what's saying is commercial district there is
Their
not as
commercial
valuable,
district is huge.
is not as valuable as one would think it would be.
No, it's very valuable. It's just that the housing values are off the
Okay.
charts
right,
valuable.
Fairfield County generally
Okay.
speaking, so.
Okay.
It's hard
So
to compare it, you know, anything not in Fairfield County to Fairfield County.
But per scale, we're very similar to those towns.
Yeah, no, it's
Their
surprising.
business district is significantly bigger than ours.
Right.
Yeah, but
Scale
as
taxes
a
paid,
per-
you know, the residential proportion of taxes paid in versus the business taxes paid in are to scale to ours, so it's.
Yeah,
It's just a much bigger kingdom.
It's just, right, exactly. It's much
Yeah.
bigger.
But it was interesting, Jody. I thought it was like, how could that be?
yeah.
How is that possible?
I think.
Generally speaking, the few things that came out was, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
that I recall. The education was one of the very big prominent items in there as relates to growth, particularly on the elementary school basis. We're one of the very few municipalities in the state who have growing enrollment, whereas a lot of others have declining, and that the report indicates that that's just going to continue, and that's obviously a very significant expense. But on the other hand, the grand list is not growing in the same way. So
Right. Well, but but on the other hand, it's subsidizing the grand list because it's keeping property values higher because people are clearly moving here because of
certain
the schools.
properties, so based on the report, they're saying different properties and different price ranges are doing better than other properties, things of that nature. So it is a very interesting report. If I may suggest, read it, take a, read as much as you can of it, and then have a discussion in terms of how you feel, based on that report, what directions you feel, the commission may want to focus on, that type of thing.
I agree, and I'd like to discuss what we agree we're drawing from the report, because similar to you, I've always assumed that, well, at Woodbridge, one of the big drawing powers of the town, one of the strengths of it is the schools. But the data doesn't bear that out the way that I would have thought, because if the schools were so valuable, lower priced houses should be doing better because people should be moving here just to get into the school district. That's not what the data said,
I agree.
right? So
Which was strange.
Right, so one of the
Didn't make it
things
to
I'd
that
like
part
to.
of the report, obviously.
Well, but that's why I think I agree. We should read this, and the part that I've always kind of, and I think Jody, I talked about this a couple of meetings ago, which is I'd like to have us come up with a coherent set of beliefs about what we think the strengths and advantages of Woodbridge are, and what are our weaknesses that we need to be.
The funny thing is, I think that our strength is the school system. I think that our housing stock, the types of houses that have been built here over the last 30 years, is a deterrent to those young families that are looking to move into a town with a good school system. You've got these giant houses that are 3,600 square feet with 20-foot ceilings, and you have to heat these things, and you can't use gas, so you're using oil or propane, and you have wells and all these other things. So it's not as easy as it used to be for a family to come in and afford to be in these giant houses. So the housing stock's a little bit prohibitive. I think the school system's still great. I think all those things. I think we are, being that I've done a little residential recently, there are young families coming into town, those that have the means and the ways to be here. It's just, and I think that there's housing stock here, but some of these lower priced houses are lower priced because they're dated and they're big. I mean, you've got like a 3,800 square foot house that has a coil stove and, all kinds of funky things in it that needs a lot of rehab. It's an interesting market. So we're sort of, that's where sort of, if there was an ability to build more reasonable houses in the town, I think you would be bringing in some of these middle to upper class families that would want to bring their kids in. They can afford to be here. But if you've got a 3,800 square foot house and the taxes are $12,000 a month, $12,000 a year, and you've got to put $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in the house to make it, right for your family, it's a big
We don't have entry level or exit level housing.
We don't.
We've got 97% of the town, I think, is single family homes, and it's not a good makeup for our community to not be able to allow young professionals or families to move into our town or be able to afford to move in. And conversely, on the other side of the spectrum, we don't have people to be able to stay in town once they sell those homes.
Right. And comparatively to Westport, you've got these nice
Condos.
higher end condominiums that you could downsize to if you don't want to be in your 4,000 square foot house anymore, or that a young family could come in and pay $400,000 for, or $350,000 for a nice 3-bedroom 2-bath condominium. But we don't have that stock, so it makes it prohibitive. I don't think it's a school system per se. I think it's trying to find out where you can fit in to live in the town. It's a weird dynamic.
I think there's not enough spendable money. People don't have enough spendable money. If you look at a lot of the homes, and I haven't looked at them, but my daughter-in-law has, she said, and she probably knows every home that's for sale in Bethany, Orange, and Woodbridge. She said that a lot of the homes that she's looking at need a lot of care. Not just dated age-wise, they need a lot of care. That tells us there's no spendable money. That they don't have it. People don't have the money to put into the homes. So it's a big issue. You hit on a lot of great points where we don't have entry-level homes and we don't have exit-level homes. That's a major undertaking to try to change that, but it would be a worthy goal.
But to what Mike's saying is that's part of us accepting that as our limitations currently.
It's
important.
Right, you can't change.
Then you're limited.
Right.
Then you're limited.
No, having a young professional who did move into Woodbridge 4 years ago for the schools, which is what my wife and I did, and we're in a larger house than we would have ever wanted, with giant cathedral ceilings that we hate heating in the winter. Thank you for reminding me of that in March. I do think that the question is, maybe there are, I know the solar roof program was quite a success. Probably for the same reasons that we ended up putting one on, is because, those are the kinds of things that the EDC could focus on. Maybe there are regional renovation programs where we could figure out how to get group buying for renovation of certain things that are the things that families can't figure out how to do on their own to get some of the houses fixed up, or improve heating, or switch to propane tanks, or geothermal, or some of these things that you hear about them, you can't imagine how to do them. I don't know. I think that there may be some of those areas that could make a huge meaningful difference. Because people, over the last, 10 years, people have been in trouble because they've been house rich and cash poor. But the housing market's holding up okay here.
It is.
Compared to other areas. So we may come out of it sooner than other areas because of Yale. Because Yale was kind of a recession-proof. Right.
Growth at Quinnipiac. You've got a lot of universities that are growing within 20 miles.
Yeah, we have Wesleyan professors on our street.
Yeah, but I think when I've read some of the economic stuff about New Haven, my brother's a professor down there, and Yale was pretty recession-proof, and I'm sure it's been one of the things that has helped Woodbridge. So it may be that if we come out of if the housing values come up here sooner than other places, that our ability to kind of draft on that with special programs might be more than we would suspect.
It goes to sort of the idea that the Urbanos had to build that little condo back on Lucy Street.
And where is that?
I think they were just turned off by how it was sort of received. I don't think that they wanted to build a little 8-unit condominium,
Because they
block.
weren't able to get getting back to TP&Z, they weren't able to get
They
their
were shut
approval they
down on
wanted.
sort of the sizes
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they were allowed to do, and they were sort of limited on the decorative tower that they wanted to put on there to
Right.
make it stand out and be like sort of a vision point on the back of, forgive me, what's the name of the street back there?
James Street? Hazel Terrace.
Hazel Terrace. And I think that something like that, if you put 8 nice, new built condominiums that were nicely fitted in an affordable price point, you would get the right buyer for that. That would be an entry level sort of. It doesn't have to be 100 units.
Or an exit level. I mean, I think
Right.
Jim, speaking to him, was hoping it was an exit level, that people who want to downsize.
Right, and they could walk to the
can-
restaurants and utilize the trails behind there and things like that. I think it's, I think we should start to try to,
That
us
gets-
as economic development, try to steer, try to use our voices to try to.
It gets back to,
I
if we
I
don't,
agree.
But I think the question is, there's a difference between us steering it and us hoping to create a shared vision.
Well,
Like,
I
we
don't
don't
steer. I
have
mean,
to, right, the beginning of it could be gathering all this kinds of data and at least analyzing it enough to say, hey, here are some pros, here are some cons, here are some strengths, here are some weaknesses. Let's get a vision out there. How it's executed, you're right, we need to make sure that the Board of Selectmen agree before we get
Right.
over our skis
right.
and be like, well, we think we should do X. That's not our, it's not our gig.
Mika, what
Right.
is the Board of Selectmen doing with this report? I mean, are they evaluating? Are we sort of on target? Should we be looking further into this, or are they actually taking this and evaluating and creating bullet points, or is it just sort of ending up?
We haven't created bullet points to that degree. I think we did review it, and the intent was to give us, to assess, just basically what you had indicated, to get an indication as to what areas we need to focus on, where there's areas of concern, what those areas of concern are, and what needs to be done in order to address those areas of concern. But not a lot, in terms of
Okay.
it, from the perspective of specifics coming out of it. I think it'll be used as we
So is this
identify
something?
projects.
So you missed my entry at the beginning of the meeting where I said, going forward, we really want to have Board of Selectmen buy-in before we get out over our skis. Use your vernacular.
buy-in for.
So
Anything?
so would the Board of Selectmen like for us to review this and to, do some takeaways and maybe create some bullet points of what we think can be done with this information?
I would love to see the this commission drive particular specifics to the Board of Selectmen, saying, as we're EDC, here's where we think needs some of the things that need to be addressed, or some of the areas that need some attention, specifically. And I
Are they
think
open to our opinions and our suggestions? I mean, I only know from
I don't-
experience of the things that have been turned down in the past. So
Right.
I
Well,
think
it
Jody's
depends
point
on
is they don't want to spin
depends on
wheels.
when you say things that have been turned down. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I can tell you from being on the board now for a period of time and working with those individuals, none of them are closed to ideas. None of them are close to ideas. And as a matter of fact, I believe most are looking for input and ideas in areas where we can understand and identify the fact that this is a concern, this is a particular concern, and this is something we need to address so that we can focus on a particular area. The selectman does most of the heavy lifting on a day-to-day basis, the selectman's office, her and her staff, in terms of everything that's happening. But from a Board of Selectmen standpoint, we'd be looking for your input in.
So if you can bring that to Board of Select, because I really don't, after the
So-
Yale Urban Design Workshop plan, which was, given to the EDC by Ed Sheehy, and then kind of didn't have the support that we would hope to see it in changes enacted in the zoning regs, and then, you were part of the website where we were given it, but we weren't given it, and then it was taken back. So what I want, so we can, create a feeling that we're participating, we're doing things that we have buy-in. Can you bring this to the Board of Selectmen and say the EDC would like to look into this, we'd like to make some recommendations based upon our read of this, and come back to us and let us know if that's something that the Board of Selectmen would like us to do. I mean, I understand you're our liaison, but I want to
I'm
make
happy do
sure.
that. That's exactly my responsibility.
Right, I want to
So
make
I'm
sure
happy
that we
do
have buy-in before we agenda this item and spend a few hours looking at it and seeing what recommendations we can come up with based upon our read.
And Betsy, is this, I mean, I'm sensitive to you and I talked a tiny bit about this, about being over our skis with this. I mean, is this something where before we even start going to the next level of analysis of this, we should have a CERC person help guide us through that?
I don't think so. I mean, what do you think, Mika? I mean, I feel like the report is, I mean,
Okay.
it's a dense report. There's a lot
Right.
in there.
Right.
But I think, you know,
But
if you're-
taking this to the next level of, I mean, like, this is information, the next question is analysis
and what do you
and
do next?
conclusions. And, you know, all problem-solving stuff, at least in my humble opinion, is about how many ideas do you have to draw from. And clearly Circus seen a lot more stuff in the market. I mean,
What I'll indicate is the main thrust of the report is economics.
Right.
Economic development.
I absolutely
So
agree.
from that perspective, whereas the Board of Selectmen, in addition to this report, has gotten numerous other reports and has a number of issues that they're also addressing as well. Not to say that this isn't important, it is very important.
I think we should just summarize this. I mean, I
Right.
did this with another group. Mike hit it on the head. We do this SWOT analysis, as this is the foundation. Out of the SWOT analysis, we come up with our top 3 issues that we want to focus on, and that's what we go to the board with, not a 65-page report, but 3 bullets.
Right.
It really starts with Dr. Plattis's report, with the COPD, with this report. We have a lot of data, but I think, quite frankly, it's too much data. We need to take all that, analyze it, throw it up on the board, pick
Figure
the
out
top
the-
3 opportunities, and this is what we want the support of the selectmen to move forward with, whatever they might be.
Right.
And that's what we focus on.
And with all the factors considered in this situation that we're in, the environment that we're in now, I think it's perfect time. I think it's something that's critical and very much needed, and I think this group is in a great place to do just that and drive that particular, like you said, Jamie, it's better to have, these 3 things are really important and move forward with it. So,
So how do we move forward? Do we individually read through the report and then come to the next meeting with like bullet points that we all think and discuss it, or how's that
I think we
work?
can, I think we should individually read through this report. I think Jamie's correct. We should individually read through the Yellow Design Workshop report, even for those who have read it, read this first, read that in light of this, and do some brainstorming.
And the COPD has a section specifically, Plan
Right,
of Conservation
okay.
Development, specifically on economic development, which takes a lot of the stuff from Dr. Plattis's report.
Right, they actually lifted it. most
Yeah,
of it,
so that section of COPD that is, I think it's economic and something, it's like 10 pages, that's, for me, it's been the focus of that whole report with this. And then, I mean, a SWOT analysis is easy, we just, throw it up on the board, I'll bring my chart that I used at my last meeting, we throw it up there, we compile the data, we do, go through those 3 things, as long as we
Priorities.
have a quorum, we can
We
get.
just, we can
Get
do, we
some
can't
input.
vote on it if we don't have quorum.
I think it'd be a fun meeting. I really
But
do. I
if-
think it'd be-
can
I think
you-
you already hit on 2 of them. You hit on the entry-level housing and exit-level housing. And those are 2 big deals. So how do you address that? That's a
Well, we
big
don't have
question.
we don't have the capacity, but if we can throw that back and present it to the Board of Selectmen, then maybe they can get some initiative to
And
address.
keeping in mind that whatever is presented, there should be an objective, in other words, where you would like to get. Now,
Right.
I thought about what you said in terms of there's been things in the past, and I was trying to think of precisely, but I did think of a few, like you mentioned.
Well,
the
I was
Plattis
talking
report.
about, the
But-
website and the,
The thing to consider is, okay, what could the town impact on the Plattis report in particular? It's got great information in it, but much of what would have to be done would have to have buy-in from property owners. The town doesn't own that property. The town can't impact, it can't
The
drive.
town can change zoning, please.
Yes, Jody, I
Yes,
couldn't
yes.
agree with you more, so that's the objective. In other words, the objective isn't to beautify Selden, the objective is to modify zoning so that we can,
So the
we can
incentive,
business.
so
we can do
people,
these kind of
I mean, if you
things.
look.
And that's what I'm getting at,
I
just to
drive-
keep
right.
the objective.
I'm gonna get on my little soapbox again. I drive around the state. I drive up to Oxford, about once a month. It's amazing what's going on in Oxford right now. I'm sure they changed zoning. And so now every little piece along 67 is either for sale or being developed in a really responsible way. I mean, it doesn't, except for that one big sort of shopping center. It doesn't feel like things are changing because the zoning is so sensitive to its surroundings. If you go into Hamden, who used our consultant, Leslie Crane, if you go up and down Whitney Avenue, between 15 and Dixwell, it's great. Unfortunately, my manicurist is no longer there because someone decided to buy that building and develop it. But like Red Roost, I don't know, so Roost opened up, and Amity Physical Therapy opened up, and they're really nice buildings that have come in that don't seem to have really altered the skyline, but have just created took some blighted properties and made it nice. So zoning can work. It can work for economic development. It can work to change, but we need some fortitude to make that happen.
It has to.
Yeah, it has to.
Eventually, it has to. Otherwise, we'll get eaten alive.
So Betsy, if you can make in one of the next blasts that you send out, perhaps put a link to this report again. I know you've done it. This report, the COPD, and the Gladys report, so that everyone, but you don't have to go through your emails to find the separate ones. And then let's put it back on the agenda for our next meeting, which is in May.
Yep.
So the reports and SWOT analysis.
And let's look at it and come prepared to just brainstorm. And if we think that's enough time for everybody to review it and to really just be able
I think
to.
that makes sense, because if we had the April 11th meeting, it wouldn't be enough time.
Right.
So I think that's
Yeah.
perfect timing, actually.
But in the interim, please go to the Board of Selectmen and say this is what EDC wants to do, and we'd like to know that they're going to be receptive to hear what we have to say, and perhaps we'll present to them at some point after that when we have our talking points, our messaging down, our bullet points. We'd like to come to them.
Because I think that's it, and we've just got so much data, how do we consolidate it all? And that's what we'll do, is work through that process to consolidating down.
Well, the big question really is too, when we analyze all that, you have a good idea where we're going to come out already without even looking at it, and the question really is it wanted? Is it wanted? That's the big question.
When you say that by the leaders of the town or by the citizens?
The citizens,
By the citizens,
by the
okay.
community.
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm
the community speaks, the community should speak. So,
But
it's based on
so
what the community really wants.
So the problem with the community speaking and the problem in politics right now in general, worldwide, is that the loudest voices get amplified. So it's not necessarily it's those people that politicians, I think, tend to listen to, and not necessarily the voting majority. And so I think politicians are in a very hard position right now because of that. And until the world, the country, the state, and Woodbridge then figures out what to do with that, I think it's hard for the elected officials to move forward on just listening to the voice of reason. I would hope that we will be a voice of reason and come out and suggest some interesting things.
I think those 2 points. I think as economic development, we figure out a way to approach those folks that may oppose new ideas of growth and expansion, and sort of propose it to them in a way that is a reasonable and thoughtful way of sort of developing the things that we want to develop in town. If we can present them a reasonable.
I actually think that the thing to do is to represent to the voices, the lesser heard voices, because the people. I've had conversations with people about the country club. For instance, I'm not talking about this with respect to the country club, but there are very loud voices outside about the country club, but then people really want their taxes to go down. They're not opposed to different type of housing in town. But those aren't the voices you hear because they're busy doing other things. Yeah. So somehow
we have to rally those, not rally, but get them.
We have to get those people engaged, because the loud naysayers will always be loud and naysaying. I mean, the world has not figured that
We're
out.
here representing the community. I mean, that's what our role is.
Yep.
So we're here on behalf of the community, putting this plan together. So
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
what we're here for. And the public does have an opportunity to come to our meetings. So
They
it's not, nothing's being done behind closed doors.
Mhm.
And so I think we go ahead
Okay.
with this and we get, if the public wants to comment, there's an opportunity to do so and encouraged to do so.
Yes,
You know,
excellent.
What's
The
interesting,
one thing, just in case folks didn't know, just along those lines, exchanges of ideas and things of that nature should not happen on email. So if things are emailed to you, read them, digest them, do
Oh,
what
no,
you
no,
need
I'm
to
just,
do
I'm
with
just
them.
suggesting.
No,
that
no, no,
the-
I'm just saying in case folks didn't realize it, just.
Oh, yeah,
The
no.
only time to discuss it where you can exchange ideas is in the forum.
Unless it's with Betsy, because she's the town.
Right, we actually really have very few emails flying within EDC.
I was guilty of not knowing that, so that's why I
Okay,
forgot.
no, right.
you know what's interesting, one quick thing about exit housing is that all the people that would probably say no to a change, look at what happens when they exit.
Right.
They go to
Yeah,
the area where they would have said, they will say no, so.
They leave the town. They
Yeah.
go to New Haven, they go to Hamden. They could stay
Nobody
here.
wants a 3,900 square foot house with vaulted ceilings to heat,
Not for two people.
Not for two people.
any event, so I think we have an idea of what we want to do going forward, which is great, so thank you for adding it. We weren't sure at the meeting whether we should add this to the agenda for this meeting, but I wanted the opportunity to at least start the discussion, and, because I know it's going to be, it may take more than one meeting, we'll have to see how the discussion goes
And prior
next
to
time.
just closing that off, I'd like to make sure I take the right message to the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
So could you make sure that I understand the message? Is it, you want to analyze the report and deliver action points, or is
Yeah.
it something different than that?
I think that's it.
That's it?
That's it, but using other information that's already out there that the town has already paid to gather.
Well, I think there's a difference between doing a SWOT analysis, which gives you, you're distilling information into an analysis of your situation. It's not necessarily actions.
Well, that's,
I can certainly put together a housing report so you can see like this, what
So-
you've got as housing stock out there just as a sort of.
Well, I'm just saying, we could take
example.
incremental steps. We could start by saying, let's start by doing a SWOT analysis, take all the data, drill it down to say, here's what we think we're good at, here's what we have challenges on, here's problems we gotta deal with, not how. Start there, get everybody to agree that, yes, this is a situation we're in, the problems, and then the next step would be, okay, now let's sort all our ideas into buckets, and maybe some of them are the bridge too far.
So I
Right, I
think
mean,
it
like-
sounds like you're going to be leading this discussion, because you clearly have the
Listen,
experience.
Jamie has
And
this
keeping us-
background as I do, I
Okay.
think. I mean, I can lead a SWOT analysis or the second part,
Okay.
either of them are fine. That's
Okay.
what I do for a living.
Okay,
So, but I do think that the challenge with the actually giving recommendations is that some of the recommendations, and this happens to me in business all the time, I work for a small company. You come up with an idea like, well, what we should do is become the next Apple. Yeah, okay. Next idea, right? You know, so I think some of the challenges is like, sure, our first idea is we should change zoning and have it look, like Avon. Okay, great. Next idea is, maybe a trail plan and a trail day is a lot more achievable. So I think one of our challenges is that once we agree on where we are as a town, then I think we can start sorting ideas into impact versus doability.
so is the first round then to spot issues, basically?
Well, I think the first thing is we got 3 huge reports, some of which, like we've been saying, have some conflicting data in it. That I think we need to all be on the same page and maybe have CERC give us extra data, some like some of these surveys that may make us feel comfortable that yes, what we think our strengths are our strengths. What we're afraid of, we should be afraid of, or maybe everybody's in the same boat, so we shouldn't be afraid of a shrinking tax base because everybody's got one. That's what I guess I'm saying, is we can get everybody on the same page and agree on where we are as a first step.
Okay.
And then stop for a second, give that to the Board of Selectmen, see if they agree. Because suggesting new ideas, if they don't agree with our analysis of our current situation, like, of course they're not gonna agree. right?
We
And
haven't
that's
been
not
able to figure
unreasonable.
out what to do with the golf course.
Right.
In how, in how long a period of time,
Right.
so.
Yeah, there's certain things
Yeah.
not in our wheelhouse, there's certain
Right.
things that are just unrealistic, and so that's sort of yeah, we start out with saying, we're not gonna be in Avon, we're not gonna be Blueback Square,
Right.
People have been wanting us to be like Guilford and Madison for 20 years, we're not gonna do that, we have to set that aside and say, what can we realistically do?
Yeah.
I think that's the real
Right.
challenge.
Right, but I think that the first step of that is first let's define the problem and agree, everybody to agree on the problem before we, I mean, everybody loves to jump into the ideas, right? It's so much more fun to be like, let's talk about the XYZ event, that's neat. What's not neat is crunching data and reading reports and arguing out what the real data says, I mean, that's,
You can identify the problems and substantiate it, and then sort of go from there.
so. I just think
So-
that,
so-
that for Micah's answers, I think we want buy-in from the Board of Selectmen. The first thing we're gonna do is gonna grab all these reports, distill them together, listen to Cirque, and try to give a coherent statement of where we are and what our problems are.
So do you think it's advisable to try to have Cirque at the next meeting or the meeting after?
I think both.
Both, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
if we can, I don't know.
I can ask, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Charge us? I'm not sure, I have to
That's what I was
ask.
thinking.
Yeah, let's find out.
We have a little budget. Small, very small.
Yeah, no, I know, but, and maybe we do one by ourselves, and if we run into roadblocks, we have Cirque come, maybe we do one on
The
our
first
own.
one.
Yeah,
Listen, if
Yeah.
we soar through it, maybe we're all smart and this is great. And if we run into roadblocks, we can always call in the cavalry to help us.
okay.
So just take a stab at it in-house and then call in Cirque if need be.
We try, maybe it'll be okay. Or maybe the top 10 things are indisputable, like you said. I mean, if we start with, listen, our big problem is real estate. Since that's 90-something% of our tax base, everything else is kind of a rounding error. I don't know.
Okay. So I hope you'll be at the next
I
meeting?
will definitely be at the next meeting.
Okay, excellent,
I'll-
excellent.
Are we allowed to talk, not in the meeting, about about agenda? Like
Sure, so
if
so
I
long
call
as you're
Jamie and talk to him
communicating.
about how we're gonna run the meeting and we don't actually
So,
say.
so long as you're
Betsy.
CCing, so the issue is a FOIA issue.
Okay.
Okay, so long as Betsy's on the email and you address the email to Betsy, I think you can, and then Betsy can sort of help lead the discussion.
But
right?
also, yes, but also if it's a logistics issue, like
It's processy.
who's
like
bringing
what-
the markers, that's
Yeah.
fine. If it's processed but not substantive, that's totally fine.
So
But
if
if
we're
you're saying,
talking
I'm
about
gonna vote
how-
on this, that's
But-
not okay.
But
But
if
you
we're
can't-
saying
right.
how are we gonna organize the SWOT analysis?
That's totally fine.
Great.
But you can't just email me, that's my point. Or just email Jeremy.
Right.
You have to, can include Betsy, because it has to be subject to FOIA. And so, once it goes through the town servers, then the public can get the information.
What's the date of the next meeting?
It was May,
9.
whatever.
I hope, that's what I put down.
Yeah, whatever was on that list. Okay,
Nine.
so I know we've kind of jumped around. Have you given most of your staff report, or do you have more
Nope.
to give? Okay, okay,
But I
okay,
will be quick.
okay.
So, talking about Cirque, the new business guide is something that Cirque started off with you all and handed me a fairly finished draft. And what I've done is I've gone around to all the different town departments that touch new businesses as they come in and just verified and clarified what was in the guide. And there were some changes that needed to be made, but not a whole lot. And I've written up a welcome letter from Beth to be part of the guide. And the guide is in two parts. One is very high level, and it directs people to come see me so that I know that they're coming into town or they've at least got interest coming into town. And then I can give them the more detailed kind of step-by-step guide. And then I can kind of follow up with them throughout the process if need be. But it really will help me know who's trying to come into town and make sure things go smoothly. So that is probably 95% done, so that might even be ready before the next meeting in May. The wayfinding sign project, I talked to Jamie about this. Jamie led the committee for this project to create the design. I spoke with the I'm gonna forget her name right now. She's a Woodbridge resident, and she runs a sign company, Signorama.
Barbara Metz.
Yes, thank you. She in Orange, and this is what she does. She makes signs, and she's made the Orange wayfinding signs, a lot of the other towns' signs that you've seen. And she thought that our signs were scaled much larger than need be, and she said, as a resident, I think people would actually be upset with the size of the signs that are in your plan. So working with her, we scaled back the size of the signs to be more in line with what you see in our surrounding towns, and she's going to be getting me a revised estimate. She also said that some of the materials in the report were very high-end, and that materials that she's used in Orange, I think she told me she made the signs in Orange something like 10 years ago, and they still look great. So those materials should be just fine for our purposes. So she'll be giving me a quote with hopefully significantly smaller dollar amounts, which will make this much more achievable. And as I've been going out to meet with businesses, I'm mentioning that we will shortly be looking for sponsors, and a few of them have expressed interest, so that's very promising. Step 2, after I get the quote, would be to confirm location of the signs and get permission from the property owners, because they're in the right-of-way of and or on property that's privately owned. One area is very complicated. It's the gas station, the DOT, and the city of New Haven, but nothing actually owned by the town of Woodbridge. So it's a little bit of a mess. So that's where we are with that project. Already mentioned we've got the happy hour on May 14th at Saloon, and I will set up a Facebook event for that and send it out through our e-newsletter. I'd mentioned the trail and retail map that I'm working on. I've been gathering data, and the genesis of the idea is something that they did in North Branford, and they've got a lot of agriculture. So I don't know exactly what the map is going to look like, but this is what started the whole regional idea. Just pass that around. So Scrog already has all of our data for the trails. Excuse me. They've done our individual trail maps. What I've asked them to do is put all of the data together so you can see how the trails relate to one another and where they connect. And on top of that data, I'm hoping that they will add our retail establishments, farm stands, and restaurants, and other recreational opportunities like the tennis center, the golf course, those types of things, to really highlight our businesses. And the businesses I've spoken to about this are very excited. And lastly, you all have a printout here. I've been doing business visits with the survey that CERC did for us. And the businesses have been very receptive to this. I've been to 13 of them so far, and this is obviously by no means representative, but I just thought you might be interested to see some of the data that I've been collecting so far. So a few of the things that have come out of this are 3 of the businesses that I've been with have said that they are expanding and in need of new space. So I've been able to give them a couple different ideas and put them in touch with different folks because they need more space. And if they're not able to find something adequate, they might end up leaving town, which would be bad for us, good for them, but and they were all very clear with me. They don't want to leave Woodbridge, but they're having a hard time finding what might work out for them.
What kind of business?
Kind of runs the gamut. One was a nonprofit, one was in the food and beverage industry, and another was a professional services firm. It's really all over the map. So, The other thing that I thought was most interesting are the last 2 pages. So one of the, a couple of the questions on the survey are open-ended questions. I'm asking people what they like most about Woodbridge as a location for their business and what they like least. And a lot of the same answers are coming up over and over again. So strengths, people have said location. It's really easy for their employees to get here or their customers to get here because of Route 15. Safety, they all feel safe here, which is very important. And the businesses I speak to who are interacting with residents have all said that the residents' either spending ability or sophistication or education level is a huge benefit for them. Weaknesses, I don't think there's any surprise here, taxes, traffic, and not quite as frequently, but I've definitely heard from folks who have said zoning is an issue, specifically as it relates to the lack of density and signage issues. So I think those are all interesting takeaways. But again, obviously 13 is not a representative sample. But yes, small start. But the businesses have all been very grateful, really, that the town is taking an interest in them, and in a few cases, other unrelated issues have come up, and I've been able to resolve an issue or at least get them an answer. So it's definitely time well spent. So I think I'll be reporting to you on this periodically. I will kind of figure out as we go along what the frequency should be, but maybe I'd report back again in either June or July.
Can you also put on the agenda for the next meeting some sort of update on traffic situation? Because I'm sure our meeting's May 9th, and then we're going to have happy hour May 14th. It would be nice if we all can be up to date, so if people ask us at the meeting, we can, at the event.
Yeah, so the DOT project is still on schedule, the short-term one. It should be ending in September. I was just talking to them the other day. Nearly all of the underground or other sort of non-visible aspects have been taken care of, and they will be doing paving and coordinating of the traffic lights soon.
I have to say, I find it really fascinating that I was in Colorado recently, and they continue doing construction through the winter. And why Connecticut, I don't know. I'm not sure why New England is different than Colorado, but just an aside. Anyway, thank you. But if you can give us an update again, that would be appreciated, because it would be nice to be able to speak knowledgeably about it, because I'm sure that many of the businesses are concerned about the increased construction, because I did see them coming out more today and yesterday. The construction crews.
The turnpike does move a little quicker though.
Is it? Good.
It does seem like it moves quicker down the road. It does move.
It's not backed up as much.
As much, that's what
It's
I've
not as
noticed.
back as far. It's not. Definitely doesn't come past my driveway
However-
or my office anymore. And when you're
However-
down there, and a lot more cars get through because it's wider down there, so the cars can get on the highway. And
What
cars
I've
can get
also
through
noticed
quicker.
though, is that alternative way, if you continue down Amity Road, a lot of people were avoiding that part of it by going around toward the mobile station and coming around or cutting through the Amity Wine and Liquor and things of that
Amity
nature.
Wine's like a road.
That's gotten really, really worse.
Really?
So I don't
There's
know whether
reverse
people are
gates
just,
on the, speed
Well, I
line
think
there.
part of that, though, I think my observation at least is Waze, because when you use the
Right,
mapping
yeah,
programs,
yeah,
yeah.
they now tell you to avoid that and go down
Go
to
to
the
the other-
intersection and turn up in front of Walgreens there.
Right.
And so that's, because I check it before I leave, which way is the traffic better?
Right.
Right.
And a lot of times it says go that way, and I just go that way naturally. I'll go down to the intersection, turn the corner, and come back up.
I think you're right, because when I went to a DOT event about the tunnel, and I talked to the engineers, they said what they projected for traffic for the highway has not come to fruition because they think of the GPS systems that are taking people off the highways when the traffic gets really bad. It's
GPS will take you right through the farm if it's really bad. You get 10, 15 cars a day.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe we should buy more Google.
Is there a road? Is there a road
We
map?
contacted Google and everyone. I caught the guy one day going through, not the Google guy, I don't know who it was. I stopped him, I wouldn't let him go. I'll
Is
update
there a
that.
road mapped out through the farm?
Yeah, there's, well, if you check Google, it'll, I don't know, I haven't looked.
There must be something there.
Yeah, but I see the people come up, and I have a private road sign there, so they stop and
I
they
see.
turn around. A lot of, if the traffic is backed up, they stop and they look, and then they just go through. It's a little hairy going over the bridge, but
Okay, let's try
I'm
it.
not gonna bail anybody out when they go off the side.
Okay. Do we have anything on resources to support?
Yes,
small
so,
bridges?
earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, I was at, a workshop where Courtney from CERC presented about resources and ideas to support entrepreneurs and small businesses, and she was talking about very small businesses, you know, like somebody working out of their basement or their bedroom. And the idea is, how do you support these folks in a couple different ways? One, just socially, so they can interact with other people and share ideas, but also do what you can to help support them so that eventually they get out of their basement and maybe start renting some of the office space that we have that's unoccupied in town. And there are a couple different things that I thought might be easy to pull off and relevant for our local businesses. One was an office hours series or a speaker series, and it's the same concept, the format would be different. It would be to figure out the resources that we think our local businesses need, whether it's expertise in insurance, HR, legal issues, marketing, any host of things that a small business probably doesn't have expertise in, and identify local experts on the topic. So who are our marketing gurus, who are our insurance salespeople, who are our attorneys, who might be interested in volunteering just an hour or two of their time to give expertise either through a speaker series or an office hour setting where they set up in the library meeting room or somewhere like that for 2 or 3 hours once a month, and 1 month it's legal, another month it's HR, and folks can come in and get their questions answered, and hopefully it also turns into business for the people who are volunteering their time. So those seemed like easy, doable, impactful ideas that I just wanted to throw out to you guys to see if there was any interest in trying to set up something like that.
JCC, their new space.
Or
Improvements to their
makerspace, yeah.
space make that really attractive. And down in New Haven, they do this at the Grove and now at District.
Well, it makes sense with all of those
With all the startup
really
space.
small businesses. Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's a terrific idea.
I manage a property where, well, it was the Grove, now it's Agora or whatever they're calling it now, but I manage that whole entire property. And, you know, if you wanted to try to bring some folks up here, I mean, it's sort of a different concept down there at the Grove now, but
Our home workers are probably more second career craft kind of professional services.
Yeah.
They're still in the techie world.
But I do think that there's certainly a place for an incubator space, you know, outside of the JCC in town. I do think that there's certainly opportunity for some. It's a matter of, I think that's going to have a conversation, but it's a matter of finding an operator who wants to, you know, someone's got to lease a space and then operate an incubator space where they're signing up, you know, small businesses and members or giving them desk space or whatever like that. It's a lot of work for one landlord to say, oh, I'm going to just have a bunch of different, you know, and it's a great concept, and I think it'd be very good for our town because I think, like I said, there are people that are, you know, coming out of the Grove and other places that live in this town and are now finding roots in our town. So I think that there are those types of people here. So I mean, if it's something that we can try to work on, identify or find an operator or something like that.
Can, what happened in Westville? Wasn't there a worker space there? And it's now a coffee shop on the corner? But now it's a coffee shop.
No, it's still
It's
the same,
both?
yeah.
It's both, but now they have a coffee shop in the
Coffee
work?
shop's in the front,
Okay.
right in
Like
the corner
one
across
house
from
where?
Racket Coop.
Right on the corner there.
No, what?
The one across from Racket Coop, right?
The one on the
Yes.
corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right on the corner.
It's called like
It's got a
XX.
weird name, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, some-
I mean, I
Well, the
went in
Grove
there to
is like-
check it
I
out.
mean,
Corner of Blake and
Yeah.
oh really?
Not Whitney. Blake and Whaley.
Where
Yeah, there's
the little
coffees in
store,
the front,
retail store.
but
Oh,
they
okay.
have,
Yeah, but they I mean, I
There used
actually
to
tried
be
to go in at 5
a
o'clock the
consignment
other night, and they
shop,
were
but,
5:15. They were
Some
closed.
sort of a
Antique,
clothing
yeah.
store.
So
yeah, yeah.
that's why I wasn't really sure if it was a coffee shop or a workspace at this point.
no, it was workspace, I mean, it's co-working space, they've got all sorts of things back there. The woman gave me a tour, this is probably last fall, but.
I think I'm not sure it's the same, that's
Oh.
why, yeah.
But I think the first step, I mean, a speaker series and start getting people in a list, so
Right,
that we have an
identifying
idea
those.
of how big the size of the market is. And
I mean, could we not co-sponsor it with the JCC perhaps? I mean, the Woodbridge Economic Development Commission
Yeah.
co-sponsoring this with the JCC. You know, they have the space already, like you said. It's not hard to get
Another
speakers.
space that I think would be really interesting for an event is the Palestinian Museum. I don't know if any of you have been there.
I've been.
It's lovely, and he's got this really nice programming room, and I don't think enough people know about the museum. And I asked if he'd be open to hosting something and then maybe doing a tour of the space following. I think something like the forum might be hopefully too many people for that space, but maybe a speaker series or something would work there. I think we go to the JCC all the time for good reason, but I think there are a lot of other spaces in town that could be interesting hosts.
we should also reach out to SCORE. They may be able to
To
help
what?
as well.
Yeah.
The Small Business Administration runs a program called SCORE. It's a Society of Retired Executives, and they do free business consulting, but they have an excellent national program. So even if we do a speaker series where we've got a couple of local people, SCORE people would come and volunteer, and they've got really well-established programs for small businesses for accounting and law and business planning and stuff like that, and it's free because SBA pays for everything.
Nice.
I mean, maybe
That would be a
we could
nice
do
idea.
something Instead of, on top of the office space, I mean, maybe we can work with, one of the farms like Wayne's and put up a tent and get a speaker and set up chairs. I mean, you could do an outside event on a farm and sort of bring the business community to the farms and.
Well, Lazaro has the barn. I mean, you've got barn space, you've got.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a
it
lot
could
of
be,
space out
there's
there.
ways to sort of integrate the two together and then maybe get both communities together and.
I have an area we call the pit.
Sounds attractive.
That sounds,
No, it is, it's a fun spot. I mean, we just cook there, but we set up tents. We'll have a couple of tents up in another month or two, and then we set up a larger tent for, stags, birthdays, graduations, things like that. So, we had our own little thing going on down there.
okay. Okay. To be revisited, I think, in the future. Because I think we have a pretty full agenda
Yeah.
for it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second? What?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so at 8:55, we are adjourned.